Welcome back to my kitchen. I'm Jan Eide. I'd like to give a special hello to Paula Dean, the wonderful people at Kraft, and my newfound sisterhood, the Real Women of Philadelphia. This week I'm doing appetizers, and I have created for you my fabulous savory pancetta mini cheesecakes. They start, of course, with our star, Philadelphia cream cheese, and also included is pancetta. That is an Italian bacon, and we finely diced it. If you don't find pancetta at your grocer, you certainly could use bacon, but I think it's worth the extra effort to find it. It has a wonderful flavor. The rest of our colorful ingredients, sun-dried tomatoes, Parmesan cheese, onion, avocado. I used Hass avocado. If you use another avocado, just make certain that you don't use more than a cup of it. These are our main ingredients. We're going to have a few more, and we're going to start over at the stove top sauteing our pancetta. We started by adding a couple tablespoons of oil to our pan. I used the olive oil that was packaged with the sun-dried tomatoes. It has so much flavor. And now that they're a little softened, what I'm going to do is add my sun-dried tomatoes, and we're going to soften those. The sun-dried tomatoes are softened, and I've turned down the heat, and I'm going to add a heaping teaspoonful of freshly pressed garlic. I've removed the tomato and onion mixture from the pan, and we've got a nice amount of olive oil left in the pan, and I'm going to add my pancetta. We have our sun-dried tomato mixture and our pancetta set to the side just for a few minutes to cool. They don't need to cool much. And we've drained the pancetta of the extra oil. And now we're going to make the bottom of our little baby cheesecakes. We're using these tiny muffin tins. And I'm just going to be putting a heaping teaspoon of our crust into each one. And this is made up of your very favorite buttery crackers that you've crushed really fine, and butter. And what I'm going to do is tap it down with my muddler. We just recently had the Kentucky Derby, and you have to have mint juleps for the Kentucky Derby, so I have a muddler on hand. If you don't have a muddler on hand, you can just use your fingers. Making food for those that you love is really an expression of love, and I have such a wonderful family story that is an example of that. It has to do with my mother's parents. My grandmother, Ruth, lived in Iron Mountain, Michigan, and in the summer of 1916, she went to a small town in northern Minnesota, just north of Minneapolis, Minnesota, to visit her sister. And while she was there, the church was having a social to raise funds. And the single ladies were to make a picnic basket, and the single guys would bid on it. Now, as I said, it was 1916, and interestingly enough, that was the first year that James Kraft advertised. So I'm just wondering if maybe my grandmother had Kraft cheese in her picnic basket. So when my grandmother's basket came up for bid, my grandfather yelled out $5. And that was a lot of money back then. Just to give you an idea, back when my mom was a little girl, $5 would buy a week's worth of groceries. And this was 10 years before that. So they sat down and fell in love over lunch and dated for the next 2 weeks before my grandmother had to go back home. And my grandfather proposed, yes, after just 2 weeks. And she said yes, and they lived happily ever after. Now that our crust mixture is all patted down in our little mini muffin tins, we're going to make the cream cheese mixture. And in this container that's perfect for using a hand mixer, I have our sun-dried tomatoes, the Philadelphia cream cheese, Parmesan cheese, basil, and I'm going to add a little bit of Tabasco. Now, if you have cayenne pepper in your cupboard, that would work just as well. And hold on to your ears. We're going to mix that up. So I removed about a 1/4 cup of the mixture to a separate bowl. I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to use that just to top the little mini cheesecakes when they get out of the oven. And now I'm going to add egg to our mixture, and we'll make some more noise and mix this up. I put the extra cream cheese mixture into the fridge just for a little time to cool. And now we're going to fold in our pancetta and also our avocado. And I'll tell you a little trick about avocados. I always buy mine when they're hard in the store. I don't want them soft. Yes, they're ripe when they give a little bit, but if you buy them when they're ripe in the store, you take a chance that they're going to be bruised. And actually that's what happened with this one. So I cut out the bruise on it, but just keep that in mind when you are going to make something with avocado. Buy your avocados a few days ahead of time. They should ripen in 2 to 3 days. And now I'll show you my way of cubing or dicing avocado. I just make line cuts rather down each side and then crossways, and then I just take, and this is a little messy, but I take a large spoon and I scoop out my mixture, and it just automatically makes nice little cubes for me. So we'll do that with the other one. Again, I score down lengthwise and then crosswise. And then we'll take our spoon, and maybe I'll go this way so you can see. I just scoop it out and pop it in. It's that easy. Now I'm just going to fold the mixture together, and we're going to drop the probably heaping tablespoon or about a tablespoon into each one. It kind of all depends on how thick your crust is, and we'll fill these up. Now I'll mention also I didn't add any salt to this mixture because the pancetta is really salty. It's like any bacon, but for your mixture that you've set aside in the fridge to use as a topping, you will probably want to taste that to see if you want to add any salt or pepper. Our beautiful savory pancetta cheesecakes are out of the oven, and I've topped them with our little cream cheese mixture that we set aside, and then as you saw I had a little chiffonade of basil on top. Now that's a step you don't have to do, but if you're having really important company it would be kind of fun, and let me show you how to do a chiffonade. I put my basil leaves on top of each other, and then I just roll them up, and either using a scissor or a knife, I'm going to use a scissor, just make small cuts, and it gives you little basil confetti. And then we'll put, as you can see, our little confetti. And then all you do is put just a little bit on each one. Maybe I'll move that over there. So let's give these a taste. I took too big a bite, but they are fabulous. And what's so pretty is that the avocado is a pretty green against the orange of the sun-dried tomatoes, and they're delicious. Well, it's been 94 years since my grandfather bid on my grandmother's basket. You'll have to forgive me. It took me a long time to tell that story the first time without tearing up, and here I am. But it's been 94 years, as I've said, since grandfather bid on grandmother's basket, and now my basket is up for bid. And Paula and our wonderful folks at Kraft, I really hope you'll pick my basket.